Hi, this is Chriselle Lim, and you're listening to me on That's Total Mom Sense.
You have had such a dynamic career, and a common theme that I noticed was that you are just a risk taker. In an interview with Fashionista, you said, my mom thought I was crazy. She didn't really understand why I wanted to quit my salary job to pursue my not paying YouTube channel. It sounded absurd. Coming from an Asian household, I totally empathize. What was that conversation like with your mom? And you're like, I'm going to go do my own thing and not your secure treaded path.
There's a little bit of personality there as well. I would like to point that out. I'm the type of person that is very curious of what is on the other side. And that is a trait that I think is good, but also can be flawed at times, because I do take a lot of risk and I do make a lot of mistakes, and I do have to clean up some of the damage that I have done. But because I'm curious and I am a risk taker, that I was born that way, right? But two, growing up in a more traditional Asian household, as you mentioned, I've always wanted to respect my parents, and I've always been a little bit scared to go against the grain. So right after college, that was kind of my time to be like, look, I'm going to make my own money. And if I'm making my own money, I can make my own decisions. And so they kind of had to respect it at that point, because I was a very good kid growing up, and I really went by the books and what they asked me to do. And I never really went against the grain. So even though they didn't like it, they respected that, I'm going to hustle and I'm going to make my money. And they knew at that point, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, so they can either support me or not support me.
I think it's amazing how you conceptualized what it is. So tell us about what is BUMO.
Yeah, so BUMO is definitely not what it was supposed to be. BUMO was actually supposed to be a physical workspace for parents where they could be co-located with their child, so they don't feel like they're missing out so much on their children while they're working. If they want to hop on over during a lunch break, they can do a class with them and then hop on back over to the other side to get their work done. Mm-hmm. With that said, that was pre-pandemic. My co-founder and I, we really had to think about what we were going to do in the height of the pandemic. We were sitting there and we're like, okay, we raised this money. What are we going to do at this point? Because we can't open up the physical space. We have all this amazing curriculum. We have all these educators from around the globe that create this curriculum with us and for us, for our physical location. So that was years in the making. And so I said, why don't we just launch it online? Why don't we put the curriculum online and see if anyone's interested? So we launched what was called a summer camp, because we weren't sure if this was going to happen, if this was actually something that people would be interested in. When we launched that, it sold out immediately. We had to add more spots last minute, because people were just freaking out because they needed an option. And keep in mind that traditional schools all of a sudden they're forced to retrofit kind of their curriculum into a virtual setting. And they didn't really know how to do that. Of course, a year later, I think everyone has gotten a little better. But with that said, in the beginning days, there was a lot of just, demand because of that. And then from there, we're like, okay, well, it's fall. We might as well launch a fall camp because the pandemic is still here.
Yes.
And then what happened was all these camps, we realized that people didn't want camps anymore. They wanted something more concrete that they could actually rely on every single day. And so we just launched BUMO Brain, which pretty much is a virtual learning platform for early learners ages 2 to 6. We have everything from live classes with very hands-on learning And then also we have a learning program, which is more project-based and kind of like on demand. So whenever you want to do it, you have the curriculum available and the materials available. So yeah, it's been a year, almost a year since we've launched, and it was probably the best move that we've done, because what we also have realized is that this was not a COVID thing. It's an early childhood thing. There's very little options for early childhood learnings. Now we have over, I believe, 80 class types. Till this day, up to this day, we've taught over, I believe it's 25,000 classes, live classes.
Amazing.
We're in, I believe, around 30 countries. And it's just, yeah, it's been a behemoth of a project, but we are so blessed that we have such an incredible community that believes in us and loves the program so much.
So the first is, tell us about a mom sense moment that you've had. And by that, I mean, when you trusted your intuition as a mom.
One mom sense moment that really comes to mind is in the very beginning of the pandemic. I was actually in Paris when the pandemic broke out in Italy. And so by then, US thought this whole pandemic thing was a joke. It was totally like not real. It seemed like so far out of reach. So I came back, this was, I believe, in February of last year. I came back and I was like, this is gonna blow up here and it's not gonna look good. I actually got rid of my office like before the pandemic started here.
Okay.
I also pulled my entire staff and told them they had to work from home. And they all thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you talking about? I also pulled my daughters out of school, my oldest daughter out of school. And I think it was probably 5 days after the news started trickling in about the virus. I just had this really weird sense in me that it was going to get crazy. And again, there was no media about it, at least in the US, but I think what I saw happening in Europe, because I was there, I saw it easily just trickling down into the States. So I pretty much shut everything down before anybody was shutting anything down. So I think that was my biggest mom sense moment, and so glad that I did.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.